I, 52, F. Always believed the bond one had with my daughter was unbreakable. We were a team, especially after her father and I divorced when she was just a little girl. I worked 2 jobs for years to make sure she never went without. I saved every spare penny to buy the little beach house, the one she called her magical castle. It was our sanctuary, a place filled with sun, sand, and the sound of our laughter. I poured my life savings and a small inheritance from my own mother into that house. It was more than just wood and nails. It was a promise of a safe, happy place that would always be ours. I imagined her bringing her own children there one day, telling them stories about the summers we spent collecting seashells and building lopsided sandcastles. That house was my heart, given a physical form. The first crack in our perfect picture appeared when Chloe met Liam. He was charming, I suppose, if you like the kind of man who looks at you but sees right through you. He came from a family with money, old money, the kind that whispers instead of shouts. They had a way of making you feel small without saying a single mean word. Their smiles never quite reached their eyes. Chloe started to change. My weekly phone calls became shorter. Our lunch dates were canceled more and more often. She started dressing differently, talking differently. She adopted their quiet, dismissive tone. It was like watching a stranger slowly take over my daughter's body. I tried to talk to her about it, gently at first. I told her I missed her. She just said she was busy building her new life. Those words stung more than she could ever know. The final, shattering blow came not from a phone call or a conversation, but from a glossy, cream-colored envelope that arrived in my mailbox. It was an engagement announcement for Chloe and Liam, addressed to me from Liam's parents, the Hamiltons. It was beautifully printed on thick cardstock. It listed the date and the venue, a lavish country club I knew I could never afford. But it was just an announcement. There was no invitation inside. I checked the envelope again, my hands trembling. Nothing. It was a statement, a cold, calculated message telling me my place. I was the mother, but I was not welcome at the wedding. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, just staring at the announcement. The silence in my house felt heavy, suffocating. Every happy memory I had of raising her felt like a lie. Every sacrifice felt like a fool's errand. This was not just a snub. It was an erasure. They were erasing me from the most important day of her life. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that this was not just the Hamiltons' doing. This decision had to have gone through Chloe. My own daughter had looked at the guest list and decided my name did not belong on it. The pain was a physical thing, a tight knot in my chest that made it hard to breathe. That was the moment something inside me shifted. The deep, aching sadness began to curdle into something else. Something harder, colder. Something that felt a lot like resolve. They had drawn a line. Now it was my turn to draw, one of my own. I needed to hear it from her. I could not let this wound fester based on an assumption, no matter how certain I was. My finger hovered over her contact picture on my phone, a smiling girl with braces from a decade ago. It took me 3 tries to finally press the call button. My heart hammered against my ribs with each ring. She answered on the 4th one, her voice distracted and a little annoyed. "Hi, Mom. I'm super busy right now. Can I call you back?" she said. "No, Chloe. I need to talk to you now," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. There was a huff of air on the other end of the line. "Okay, what is it? Is everything all right?" she asked. "I received the announcement for your engagement," I started. "Oh, great. Isn't it beautiful? Eleanor, Liam's mother, has the most amazing taste," she gushed. The casual happiness in her voice was like a slap. "It is very nice, Chloe. But there was no invitation," I said, keeping my tone level. The line went quiet for a moment. I could hear faint music in the background. She was probably at a fitting or a tasting, surrounded by the perfect family she had chosen. "Oh, about that," she said, her voice dropping. "It is a very small, intimate affair. Liam's parents are paying for everything, and their guest list is just enormous. We had to make some really tough cuts." Tough cuts. I was a tough cut. The woman who gave her life, who held her when she was sick, who taught her how to ride a bike. I was filed under expendable. I am your mother, Chloe, I said softly. I know, and I feel terrible about it, I really do, she said, though her voice lacked any real sorrow. It is just so complicated. The Hamiltons want everything to be perfect, and, well, you know. It is just different circles, Mom. You would not know anyone. You would feel uncomfortable. So that was it. I was an embarrassment. My simple, middle-class life was a stain on the perfect, wealthy tapestry they were weaving. I would not fit in with their friends who summered in Europe and wintered in the tropics. My used car and off-brand clothes would stick out. I would feel uncomfortable because my own daughter did not want me there, I said. My voice was ice. Please do not be like this, Mom. You are making me feel guilty, she whined. That was the line. That was the moment the hurt turned completely to anger. Guilt is a feeling you get when you have done something wrong, Chloe, I said. I have to go now. I hope you have a perfect day. I hung up before she could reply. I did not want to hear any more of her pathetic, pre-rehearsed excuses. I sat in the silence, the phone heavy in my hand. The initial shock was wearing off, replaced by a cold, clear certainty. She had made her choice. She had chosen the Hamiltons and their money over her own mother. The betrayal was so deep it felt bottomless. But I would not drown in it. I would not let them see me cry. I would not give them the satisfaction. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the small garden I had so carefully tended. Everything in my life I had built with my own 2 hands. I built a life for my daughter. I built this home. I built my own strength. And they were not going to take that from me. For 2 weeks, I heard nothing. I saw pictures on social media, of course. Chloe at her bridal shower, surrounded by a crowd of smiling, elegantly dressed women. Liam's mother, Eleanor, had her arm around my daughter, beaming as if she were her own. In every photo, Chloe looked radiant, happy, and completely untroubled. There was no sign that she felt even a flicker of remorse for cutting me out of her life. Each picture was a fresh stab of pain. My friends called, offering support. My best friend, Sarah, was furious. You should crash the wedding, she said during one of our calls. Walk in there and tell everyone what she did. That is not my style, Sarah, I replied, sipping my tea. It would just make me look crazy. That is what they want. They want me to be the hysterical, embarrassing mother, so they can feel justified. So, you are just going to let her get away with it? She asked, her voice filled with disbelief. No, I said, a slow smile spreading across my face for the first time in weeks. I am not going to let her get away with it. I am just going to wait. People like that, they always want something. Sarah was quiet for a moment. What do you mean? She asked. She will call, I said. Sooner or later, she will need something from me. And when she does, I will be ready. My prediction came true 3 weeks before the wedding. My phone rang, and Chloe's name flashed on the screen. My heart gave a stupid little flutter of hope before I squashed it. I let it ring 4 times before answering, taking a deep breath to steady my nerves. Hello, Chloe, I said, my voice calm and neutral.
Mom. Hi.
How are you? She chirped, as if nothing had happened. As if she hadn't ripped my heart out and tossed it aside for a better offer. I am fine, I said. What can I do for you? I did not want to engage in small talk. I did not want to pretend everything was normal. I wanted her to get to the point. Well, I have some amazing news, she said, her voice bubbling with excitement. Liam and I were planning our honeymoon. We wanted to go somewhere special, somewhere meaningful, and we thought of the beach house. I stayed silent. I let her words hang in the air between us. The audacity was breathtaking. She didn't want me at her wedding, but she wanted my house for her honeymoon. It would be so perfect, Mom, she continued, either oblivious to or ignoring my silence. It has so many happy memories for me. It would be the most romantic place to start our married life. So we were hoping we could use it for a few weeks after the wedding. It would mean the world to us. This was it. The moment I had been waiting for. The moment she would reveal that I was not a mother to her, but a resource, a convenience, a doormat to be stepped on whenever she pleased. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. You do not want me at your wedding. You told me I would not fit in. You told me I would make people uncomfortable. But you want to use my house, which I paid for with my own money and my mother's inheritance. You want to bring your new husband, the man whose family thinks I am not good enough to watch you get married, into my home to celebrate the union I am not welcome to witness. The line went dead silent. The cheerful, bubbly tone was gone. Mom, you are overreacting, she said, her voice now sharp and defensive. Am I? I asked. Am I overreacting, Chloe? Or am I finally reacting the way I should have been all along?
It is just a house, she snapped.
And it is supposed to be for family. I am your family. You stopped being my family when you decided I was not good enough for yours, I said. The words came out before I could stop them, raw and painful and true. I had spent my whole life putting her first. I had sacrificed my own happiness, my own needs, my own dreams, to make sure she had the best of everything. And this was my reward. To be discarded like an old piece of furniture that no longer matched the decor. That is not fair, she cried, her voice rising. You are being selfish. This is my wedding. It is supposed to be the happiest time of my life, and you are trying to ruin it. I am not ruining anything, Chloe, I said, my voice as cold as steel. You are the one who set these terms. You decided I was not part of your new life. So why would you expect to have access to my old one? I felt a strange sense of power. For the first time, I was not pleading for her love or attention. I was setting a boundary, a firm, unshakable one. I cannot believe you are doing this to me, she sobbed. After everything I have done for you. The sheer nerve of that statement almost made me laugh. What exactly have you done for me, Chloe? I asked. The sides break my heart. She did not have an answer for that. She just continued to cry, loud, theatrical sobs designed to make me feel guilty. But the guilt was gone. It had been replaced by a hard, protective shell around my heart. The answer is no, Chloe, I said. You are not using the beach house. Not for your honeymoon, not ever. Is that clear? She hung up on me. I stared at the phone, a storm of emotions swirling inside me. There was still pain, of course. A deep, profound sadness for the daughter I had lost. But there was also a flicker of something else. A flicker of pride. I had stood up for myself. I had refused to be used. And as I stood there in my quiet kitchen, I knew this was far from over. This was just the beginning. My ex-husband, Mark, called me the next day. I knew he would. Chloe had always been able to wrap him around her little finger. He was the classic weekend dad, all fun and no discipline. He probably felt guilty for not being around more when she was growing up, and he overcompensated by giving her whatever she wanted. He was her chief enabler. Linda, we need to talk, he said, his voice heavy with disapproval. He did not even bother with a greeting. Mark, I said, my tone flat. There is nothing to talk about. Chloe called me. She was hysterical, he said. How could you do that to her? Deny her the beach house for her honeymoon? It is her favorite place in the world. She made it clear I am not welcome in her world, Mark. I replied, trying to keep my voice even. Why should she be welcome in mine? Oh, come on, Linda. Do not be so dramatic, he scoffed. It is just a wedding. The Hamiltons are a bit stuffy, that is all. Chloe was probably just trying to spare your feelings. Spare my feelings. The lie was so ridiculous it was almost insulting. She told me I would not fit in, Mark. She told me I would be uncomfortable. She was ashamed of me. Do not try to pretend this is anything other than what it is. Even if that is true, she is still your daughter, he argued. You are punishing her for what? For falling in love with a rich guy? You should be happy for her. I am not punishing her, I said firmly. I am protecting myself. There is a difference. She does not get to discard me when it is convenient, and then pick me up again when she wants something. That is not how relationships work. It is just a house, Linda. For God's sake, it is just sitting there empty most of the time. What is the big deal? He said, his voice rising in frustration. The big deal, I said, my own voice getting louder, is that it is my house. I bought it. I paid the mortgage. I pay the taxes. I fixed the leaky roof last winter while you were on vacation in Mexico. It is mine, and she is not entitled to it, no matter how much she cries to you. This was the core of the issue. They both saw my property, my assets, as a communal resource, something they had a right to. They had forgotten, or perhaps never even realized, that I was the one who had worked for it all. You are being incredibly selfish and petty, he spat. You are going to regret this. You are pushing your only daughter away. The accusation hung in the air. For a moment, a sliver of doubt crept in. Was I being selfish? Was I letting my hurt feelings cloud my judgment? I thought about Chloe's happy, carefree face in those bridal shower photos. I thought about her dismissive tone on the phone, and the doubt vanished. She pushed me away first, Mark, I said, my voice dropping to a near whisper. She made her choice when she left my name off that guest list.
This is just the consequence of that choice.
She needs to learn that actions have consequences. So you are really going to do this? He asked, a note of disbelief in his voice. You are going to refuse your own daughter a place for her honeymoon out of spite. It is not spite, I corrected him. It is self-respect.
You should try it sometime.
Goodbye, Mark. I ended the call, my hand shaking slightly. The confrontation had drained me.
Dealing with Mark always did.
He had a way of twisting things, of making me feel like I was the unreasonable one. But not this time. This time I knew I was in the right. I walked over to my desk and pulled out the folder for the beach house. I looked at the deed, with my name, Linda Marie Thompson, printed clearly as the sole owner. I looked at the mortgage statements, all paid in full. This was mine. It was a symbol of my independence, my resilience. And I would not let them take it. A few days later, I received an email. It was from an unknown address, with the subject line, "Something you should see." My first instinct was to delete it, assuming it was spam. But something made me pause. I opened it. There was no text in the body of the email, just a forwarded chain of messages. My blood ran cold as I started to read. The messages were between Chloe and her future mother-in-law, Eleanor Hamilton. They had been forwarded to me by Mark's sister, Carol. Carol and I had always been friendly, even after the divorce. She was a good woman, and she had a strong sense of fairness. The emails laid out their entire plan in sickening detail. My stomach churned as I read Chloe's words. "The house is perfect," Chloe had written to Eleanor. "It is right on the water and big enough for us to be comfortable. And the best part is, we will not have to pay a thing. My mom will just give it to us. She always does." Eleanor's reply was even more damning. "That is wonderful, darling. It will be a perfect starter home for you and Liam. It is so important to have a solid foundation, and being mortgage-free will allow Liam to focus on his career, without the pressure of providing a home right away. It is a shame about your mother not being at the wedding, but it is for the best. This way, there are no awkward introductions, and we can just move forward as a new family. Once you are settled in the house, she will come around. She will not want to be cut off from her future grandchildren." My breath caught in my throat. A starter home. They were not asking for a honeymoon spot. They were planning to move in, to take over my house, my sanctuary, and live there rent-free, indefinitely. They had discussed it, planned it, all behind my back. The unmitigated gall of it was staggering. They saw me as nothing more than a bank, a provider of a free house. And the line about grandchildren, that was the cruelest cut of all. They were already planning to use my future grandchildren as leverage against me. It was manipulative and vile. I scrolled down further. There were more messages discussing how they would redecorate, what furniture they would replace. Chloe had even sent Eleanor pictures of my things, with little comments. "This ugly old couch has to go," she had written under a photo of the comfortable sofa my mother had helped me pick out. "And this hideous wallpaper is a nightmare." She was dissecting my home, my life, my taste, with the cold, critical eye of a stranger. There was no sentiment, no nostalgia. just a greedy, grasping entitlement. I closed my laptop, feeling sick to my stomach. This was so much worse than I had imagined. It was not a thoughtless oversight or a misguided attempt to fit in with her new family. It was a calculated, long-term plan to use me and discard me. They had plotted to take my most valuable asset while simultaneously excluding me from their lives. The betrayal was so complete, so profound, it left me breathless. I forwarded the entire email chain to Sarah. Her reply came within minutes. It was just one word: war. I took a shaky breath. She was right. This was a war. A war for my home, my dignity, and my self-respect. And I was not going to lose. I printed out the entire email chain, every single damning word. I placed the papers back in the folder with the deed and the mortgage statements. This was my ammunition. I did not know when or how I would use it, but I knew I had to be prepared. The naive, heartbroken mother was gone. In her place was a woman who was finally ready to fight back. My resolve was solid, but the days leading up to the inevitable confrontation were agonizing. Every time the phone rang, my stomach twisted into a knot. I felt like I was living in a state of siege, just waiting for the next attack. I spoke to my Aunt Carol, Mark's sister, to thank her for sending me the emails. "I am so sorry, Linda," she said, her voice full of genuine regret. "I overheard Chloe talking to Eleanor at the bridal shower. It was disgusting. They were laughing about it, laughing about how easy it would be to get the house from you. I could not let them do that. Mark is my brother, but he is a fool when it comes to that girl. He lets her get away with murder." "You did the right thing, Carol," I told her. "I needed to know the truth. It hurts, but it is better than being a fool." "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I am going to tell her no," I said simply. "And I am going to stand my ground, no matter what." "Good for you," she said. "You worked hard for that house. It is yours. Do not let them bully you out of it." Her support was a balm on my wounded spirit. It was a relief to know that not everyone in that family was blind to Chloe's behavior. It made me feel less alone. The ambush came on a Saturday afternoon. I was in my garden, trying to find some peace among my roses, when a car I did not recognize pulled into my driveway. It was a sleek, black luxury sedan, the kind Liam drove. My heart started to pound. Then another car pulled in behind it. It was Mark's. They were here. All of them. Chloe, Liam, and my ex-husband. They had come as a united front, a tactical team sent to pressure me into submission. I stood up, brushing the dirt from my knees. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I would not let them see me tremble. I would not let them intimidate me in my own home. I walked to the front door and opened it before they had a chance to ring the bell. The three of them stood on my porch, a grim-faced delegation. Chloe was in the middle, her arms crossed, a pout on her face. Liam stood beside her, his expression a mask of cool indifference. Mark looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice devoid of any warmth.
"I did not invite them in."
"We need to talk to you, Mom," Chloe said, her voice sharp. "This has gone on long enough." "I have nothing more to say to you, Chloe," I replied. "Well, we have plenty to say to you," Liam interjected, stepping forward. It was the first time he had ever spoken to me with anything other than polite platitudes. His tone was condescending, as if he were speaking to a difficult child. "Chloe is very upset. You are ruining what should be a happy time for her." I looked him straight in the eye. "And you are the man who is marrying a woman who would treat her own mother this way," I said. "That says a lot about your character." His face tightened. I had hit a nerve. "This is about the house," he said, getting straight to the point. "Your refusal to let us use it is frankly ridiculous and selfish." "My house, my rules," I said. "And the rule is, you are not welcome in it." "Linda, please," Mark pleaded, stepping forward. "Just listen to them. Hear them out. They have a proposal." A proposal. As if this were a business negotiation. My anger, which had been simmering just below the surface, began to boil. This was it. The confrontation I had been both dreading and preparing for. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me. I was not going to back down. This was my home. This was my line in the sand. A proposal? I repeated, a humorless laugh escaping my lips. Let me guess. You propose that I forget my daughter disowned me, and I hand over the keys to my most valuable asset, so you can live in it for free. Is that about the size of it? Chloe's face flushed with anger. You are twisting everything. We just want a place to start our lives together. A place that means something to me. You are the one being selfish and holding on to it like some dragon hoarding treasure. The dragon comment was a nice touch. It was so perfectly, childishly dramatic. I looked at my daughter, this stranger standing on my doorstep, and I felt a profound sense of loss. The sweet little girl who had called this house her magical castle was gone forever. In her place was this grasping, entitled woman I did not even recognize. This treasure, I said, my voice low and dangerous, is something I worked for. I sacrificed for it. I paid for it with my own sweat and tears, and with the last gift my own mother ever gave me. It is not just a pile of bricks, Chloe. It is my life's work, and you are not entitled to it. It should be mine one day anyway, she shrieked, her composure finally cracking. It is my inheritance. Is it? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Inheritance is something that is given, not taken. And it is usually given to people who have shown a basic level of love and respect. You have failed on both counts. I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes. The idea that her future inheritance might be in jeopardy was clearly something that had not occurred to her. She had assumed, with the supreme confidence of the truly entitled, that no matter how badly she treated me, my assets would one day be hers. Liam stepped in again, placing a calming hand on Chloe's arm. He turned to me, his expression now one of strained patience. Look, he said, his voice smooth as oil. Let's be reasonable. We understand you are upset about the wedding. It was an unfortunate situation, but Eleanor's wishes had to be respected. But that is a separate issue from the house. We are prepared to be generous. We will let you visit, of course, on holidays. You can see your future grandchildren here. There it was. The leverage. The threat they thought was their trump card. The one Eleanor had so smugly outlined in her email. They were offering me visitation rights to my own home in exchange for my silence and compliance. It was the most insulting offer I had ever received in my life. I stared at him, my face a blank mask. I let the silence stretch out, watching their confidence begin to waver. Mark looked at the ground. Chloe bit her lip. Liam's polite smile began to look strained. Let me tell you what is going to happen, I said, my voice clear and steady. Every ounce of fear and sadness had burned away, leaving only cold, hard certainty. You are going to get in your expensive car, and you are going to leave my property. You are not getting my house. Not for a week, not for a day, not for an hour. You are not going to live here, you are not going to redecorate, and you are certainly not going to be raising my grandchildren here. I paused, letting the words sink in. I looked directly at Chloe. And as for my inheritance, I continued, you might want to rethink your financial planning. I am meeting with my lawyer on Monday morning to have you removed from my will. The house will be sold, and the money will be donated to a charity that helps abandoned animals. I find they are far more grateful and loving than some people I know. The effect was instantaneous and explosive. Chloe let out a strangled gasp. Mark's head snapped up, his eyes wide with disbelief. Liam's mask of civility shattered, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated fury. His true colors were finally on display. You cannot be serious, he hissed. You would do that to your own daughter? She is the one who showed me how it is done, I replied calmly. She cut me out of her life. I am simply returning the favor. It seems the Hamiltons value family above all else. Well, so do I. And my family no longer includes people who would plot behind my back to steal from me. Plot? Chloe whispered, her face pale. What are you talking about? This was the moment. The checkmate. I held up my hand, silencing her. Oh, I think you know exactly what I am talking about, I said. I know all about your plan to turn this into your starter home. I know all about your conversations with Eleanor. I know you think my couch is ugly and my wallpaper is a nightmare. I saw the dawning horror on her face as she realized I knew. She looked from me to Liam, then to her father, her eyes searching for an escape. There was none. How? She stammered. How could you know that? It does not matter how I know, I said. It only matters that I do. You did not just ask for a favor, Chloe. You conspired to take my home. You and your new family. You laughed about it. You thought I was a fool who would just roll over and give you everything you wanted. You were wrong. Mark finally found his voice. Linda, this is insane, he said, taking a step toward me. She is our daughter. You cannot just cut her out. We can talk about this. We can work something out. There is nothing to work out, Mark, I said, my gaze unwavering. You stood by and let this happen. You enabled her. You chose her side. So you can live with the consequences of that choice. All of you. I looked at the three of them. A united front of greed and entitlement, now fractured and stunned into silence. I had taken back my power. I had refused to be their victim. I felt a surge of strength I had not felt in years. Now, I said, my voice ringing with finality, get off my property. You are trespassing. For a long moment, nobody moved. They just stared at me as if they had never seen me before. And in a way, they hadn't. They had only ever seen the accommodating mother, the agreeable ex-wife, the quiet woman who never made a fuss. They had never met this version of me, the one who had a backbone of steel. Liam was the first to break. He grabbed Chloe's arm, his face a thunderous mask of rage. Let's go, he snarled. This is a waste of time. She is crazy. He practically dragged her toward his car, not even giving her a chance to say another word. Chloe looked back at me over her shoulder, her face a mess of tears and confusion and dawning horror. It was the look of someone who had just gambled everything and lost spectacularly. Mark lingered for a moment, his expression a mixture of shock and something that looked almost like shame. Linda, he began, but he could not finish. He did not have the words. He had no defense for what they had done. Goodbye, Mark, I said, and I closed the door in his face. I leaned against the door, my body trembling with the aftermath of the confrontation. I listened as two car doors slammed and engines roared to life. I heard the crunch of tires on my gravel driveway as they sped away. And then there was silence. A blessed, peaceful silence. I slid down to the floor, my legs no longer able to support me. I put my head in my hands, and for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I cried. But these were not tears of sadness or betrayal. They were tears of relief. Tears of release. The war was over. And I had won. The days that followed were quiet. The silence from Chloe, Liam, and Mark was absolute. It was a stark contrast to the constant pressure and emotional turmoil of the previous weeks. At first, the silence was a relief. It was a space to breathe, to heal. I met with my lawyer just as I said I would. He was a kind, older man who had handled my divorce and the purchase of the beach house. He listened patiently as I laid out the whole sordid story, his expression growing more grim with each detail. I want to change my will, I said, my voice firm. I want Chloe completely removed. I want the beach house and all my other assets to be placed in a trust, and upon my death, liquidated, and the proceeds donated to the North Shore Animal Rescue. He nodded slowly. Are you absolutely certain about this, Linda? He asked gently. This is a very permanent decision. I have never been more certain of anything in my life, I replied. She made her choice. Now I am making mine. He drew up the new documents and I signed them. With each stroke of the pen, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. It was a decisive, final act of self-preservation. I was severing the final tie, the financial obligation that Chloe and her father had taken for granted for so long. I was finally, truly free. About a week after the confrontation, I got a call from an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. It was Eleanor Hamilton. Her voice was as cold and brittle as ice. I think you and I need to have a conversation, she said, without any preamble. I have nothing to say to you, Eleanor, I replied. I think you do, she snapped. You have caused my son and my future daughter-in-law a great deal of distress. Your behavior has been appalling. I almost laughed. The nerve of this woman, to accuse me of bad behavior after she had conspired with my daughter to steal my house. My behavior? I said. You think my behavior is the problem here? Let's talk about your behavior, Eleanor. Let's talk about you encouraging my daughter to lie to me. Let's talk about you plotting to take my property. Let's talk about you raising a son who thinks it is acceptable to marry into a family and immediately start making demands. She was silent for a beat. I had clearly caught her off guard. She was not used to being challenged. I was simply trying to help the children get a good start in life, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. Something you seem unwilling to do. Helping them and enabling their greed are two very different things, I said. I helped my daughter her entire life. I gave her everything I could. What I am unwilling to do is allow her, or you or your son, to treat me like a bank account with legs. My days of being a doormat are over. I suggest you and your family get used to it. You will regret this, she hissed. When Chloe and Liam are married, and they have children, you will be all alone. You will have no 1 inch. It was the same threat Liam had tried to use. Their one and only weapon. I would rather be alone than be used, I said calmly. And for what it is worth, I feel sorry for you. You are getting a daughter-in-law who is disloyal, manipulative, and greedy. I wonder how long it will be before she turns on you. Goodbye, Eleanor. I hung up the phone, my heart beating fast. That woman was a viper. But I had not backed down. I had stood up to her, just as I had stood up to the others. Each confrontation made me stronger, more certain of my decision. The wedding day came and went. I saw the photos online, of course. It was a lavish affair, just as they had planned. Chloe looked beautiful in her expensive dress. Liam looked handsome in his tuxedo. They were surrounded by their wealthy friends and family, smiling for the camera. But I looked closely at my daughter's eyes. Behind the perfect smile, there was a hollowness, a strain that had not been there before. Maybe I was just imagining it, projecting my own feelings onto her. Or maybe, just maybe, she was beginning to understand the true cost of her perfect new life. The real fallout began a few weeks after the wedding. I got a call from Aunt Carol. She sounded upset. I had to call you, Linda, she said. Things are a mess over here. What is going on? I asked. It is Chloe and Liam, she said. They're living with Eleanor and her husband. And it is a disaster. Apparently, Liam had told his parents that the beach house was a sure thing. He had promised them he would have it secured before the wedding. He had even used the promise of a mortgage-free life to get a bigger loan for his new business venture. I was stunned. He did what? He lied to them, Linda, Carol said. He told them you had already agreed to give them the house. When you refused, and he realized you were serious, his whole house of cards came tumbling down. His parents are furious with him for misleading them, and they're furious with Chloe for not being able to control her mother. A bitter, ironic laugh escaped me. So, it is my fault that their plan to scam me out of my house failed. That is how they see it, Carol confirmed. Eleanor is making their lives a living hell. She is constantly criticizing Chloe. Her cooking, her clothes, the way she keeps the guest room where they're staying. She is treating her like a servant. And Liam is not defending her. He is blaming her for the whole thing. He told her it was her job to get the house, and she failed. I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was a grim satisfaction in knowing that their perfect plan had backfired so spectacularly. They were getting a taste of their own medicine. But there was also a pang of sadness for Chloe. She had made a terrible bargain. She had traded her mother's unconditional love for a life of conditional acceptance, and she was already paying the price. Chloe called Mark the other day, crying. Carol continued. She said Liam is a different person. He is cold and distant. He is angry all the time about the money. She said she made a terrible mistake. And what did Mark say? I asked, holding my breath. He told her she made her bed, and now she has to lie in it, Carol said quietly. I think you finally got through to him, Linda. He sees what she is now. He is heartbroken, but He is not enabling her anymore. That was perhaps the biggest shock of all. Mark, the eternal enabler, had finally drawn a line. It seemed my stand had caused ripples I had not expected. A few days later, a letter arrived. It was from Chloe. Her handwriting was shaky, the pages stained with what looked like teardrops. It was a long, rambling letter, full of self-pity and blame. She wrote about how miserable she was, how Liam had changed, how Eleanor was a monster. She wrote that it was all my fault. If I had just given them the house, none of this would have happened. If I had just been supportive, they would be happy. Tucked into the end of the letter was a desperate, pathetic plea. "Please, Mom," she wrote. "I am so sorry. I know I messed up. Can we please just go back to the way things were? Can I please have the house? Liam will be happy again if we have the house. We can fix this." She still did not get it. Even now, after everything, she thought the house was the solution. She thought my love and my property were things she could just demand, apologize for, and then receive. She had learned nothing. I took the letter and my folder of documents to the beach house one last time. I sat on the porch, looking out at the ocean. The house was quiet, peaceful. It was filled with good memories, memories of a little girl who had once loved me without reservation. But those memories were tainted now. The house was no longer a sanctuary. It was a battlefield, a prize in a war I never wanted to fight. I made a decision. I called a local real estate agent, a woman I had known for years. "I am ready to sell," I told her. The house sold in less than a month. It sold to a young family with 2 small children. I met them at the closing. They were so excited, so full of hopes and dreams for their new life by the sea. I saw the way their little girl looked at the ocean, her eyes wide with wonder, and it reminded me of Chloe, all those years ago. It felt right. The house deserved a new family, one that would fill it with love and laughter again. I took the money from the sale and the rest of my savings, and I bought a small, comfortable RV. Sarah thought I was crazy, but I had never felt more sane. I had spent my whole life building a home for someone else. Now it was time to build a life for myself. A life on my own terms. I sent one final text message. It was a group message to Chloe, Liam, and Mark. It was a picture of me, standing in front of my new RV, smiling. In the background, a sold sign was clearly visible on the lawn of the beach house. Underneath the picture, I wrote a simple caption, "Moving on." I did not wait for a reply. I blocked their numbers. All of them. I got in my RV, turned the key in the ignition, and pulled out onto the open road. I had no destination in mind, just a future that was entirely my own. The road stretched out before me, full of possibility. She wanted my house, a thing made of wood and nails. But in the end, I had kept the one thing that truly mattered, my freedom. And all she was left with was the empty space I left behind. She had her perfect, wealthy husband and her new, disapproving family. I hoped they kept her warm at night. As for me, I had the sun on my face, the wind in my hair, and a whole country to explore. I had finally learned that the best home is not a place, but a state of mind. And my mind was finally at peace. The pain of her betrayal would likely never fade completely, but it no longer defined me. It was just a scar, a reminder of a battle I had fought and won. And as I drove away, leaving that old life in my rearview mirror, I knew, with absolute certainty, that I had made the right choice. I had chosen myself, and that was a foundation no one could ever take from me.